So that's something that we can always see get explored, like, in the future. In his TV series that's, I don't know if it's confirmed. Yeah, confirmed, rumored TV series.
It will be dope, by the way.
It would be. I wanted them to explore, like, his gamma rage more, but the direction of exploring his character is totally okay. And it follows the theme that Marvel, like, tends to, like, go with. And it's like one of the biggest things about Banner's character is that he has an internal struggle, and they had to show that growth through his internal struggle, which is a pretty complex thing to show something that can't be said.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's something that Incredible Hulk, as well as Thor Ragnarok, showed pretty well. That he has this internal struggle with the Hulk, that he has this internal battle. He gives a perfect analogy of who's driving the car in Thor Ragnarok. Yeah. But it's like we physically see his internal struggle.
Even jumping back to Avengers 2 with the whole mind warp scene.
Mm-hmm.
That even added on to it. You know what I mean? With how it added to his guilt and stuff like that.
Yeah, of killing innocents, of not being able to stop the Hulk from killing. Because quite frankly, the Hulk kills all throughout the Incredible Hulk, and it was only Betty Ross that stopped him from killing.
Mm-hmm. Even in the opening scene, like in the warehouse in the shadows, he's snatching people up, slamming big ass,
breaking their backs,
stomping on them, throwing them into pillars and stuff. It's all that hardware machinery. Throwing forklifts at people like it's softballs.
Yeah. And, we get essentially like 4 versions of Hulk every time we see him. Well, not every time we see him, but a version of Hulk every time we've seen him. And we've seen him, I believe, about 4 different times throughout the franchise of the MCU as of yet.
Hulk, Avengers, and like 4 or 5 times. Yeah,
4 or 5 times. I mean, essentially, we didn't see him in Infinity War, but in Endgame, he had a whole new metamorphosis.
Yeah, sure.
We saw Banner, and Banner kind of, we saw a lot of growth in Banner, and that's what Infinity War showed. Yeah. A lot of growth in Banner, and Banner standing on his own 2 feet, kind of trying to prove to Hulk that he was worthy of Hulk's power. Mm-hmm. Where in Incredible Hulk, we see a very weak Banner. and it's like the best scene is like when Hulk transforms back into Banner and he's stranded in the jungle by himself after that warehouse scene. Mm-hmm. And he's like, struggling to stand and like kind of like,
and he's out of it, he's groggy. He looks beat down.
Yeah. And it's like, growth through that internal struggle that we're seeing physically. Like that internal struggle is now showing a physical form. And that's how we know that having the Hulk internally, like having this power eternally is a burden for him.
Right.
Because now he's stranded in the middle of,
it's a curse.
And now he's stranded in the middle of nowhere in the jungle. Yeah. And it's like one of the things
back to civilization.
One of the things that I always loved about the Incredible Hulk is that he always there was always this recurring theme. Even when Bruce and the Hulk always agreed, there was always this recurring theme of being zen or being super balanced and having self-control over your rage, even as the Hulk, having self-control over the rage. And it's like, it evolved beyond the Jekyll and Hyde dynamic that they had, especially like when you look at like Professor Hulk in the MCU. And how at some point, after Thanos' snap, they came to terms.
Yeah, I would have loved to see that though. Maybe like a little montage scene. I mean, the whole mention about being in the Gamma Lab for 16 or 18 months, however long it was. It's nice and all, but I would have loved to see that. I would have loved to see them in their
The Russo brothers wanted to maintain tone, and they said that the only placement for it was at the end of Infinity War, and it wouldn't have fit the tone. And so it's like, and that sometimes is the sacrifice that you have to make, in a story, when you're writing a story, you have to make that sacrifice that sometimes you have to follow where the characters go, not where you, the author, wants to go. And it's like going where the characters go is always better for the story, but then also maintaining the story's theme. Things can happen off screen as long as you have a well enough explanation of why it happened. You can't take too much leeway with it, which is why sometimes they have to come out with announcements putting in, like, you know, in the contrast, like, what happened.
Pretty much what the Russos had to do for the 3 weeks following the release of Endgame, with the announcements of this and that, and
yeah. Another thing that the Incredible Hulk was good for, coming out a couple months later, that the Incredible Hulk, like I said, is a powerhouse, and he kind of introduces to the audience this idea that a greater power is out there. Mm-hmm. And it is in this power is in between God. It's in between man and God. And it introduces, it stretches the audience's range of what's actually possible in this universe, because we're seeing a man physically. We actually see him physically transform a couple of times in the scene. So there's no doubt about it that there's no switch. There's no magic. He's physically transforming because of science.
Exactly.
And it's all in this stretch in the search to produce the perfect soldier, which goes horribly wrong, and is quite truthfully the undertone.
Horribly wrong and horribly right at the same time.
Yeah, arguably. But it begins to, it's the undertone of the entire film. The perfect soldier, the idea of perfection and balance. And
because even Blonsky wants to be the perfect soldier. He has a line to Ross saying, if he could do and know what he learned now and put it in a body that was 10 years younger, it would be perfect.
And Blonsky was like literally the best villain for Banner. Here he is the exact opposite of Banner. He wants the power of the Hulk. Yeah. He wanted to be a great soldier, where Banner wants to get rid of the Hulk. He doesn't want to do anything with fighting or war. He wants to be a man of science and live his life with the love of his life, Betty Ross. And it's like, it's interesting how they always introduce a villain, because like even back briefly on like Iron Man, the villain on what's his name?
Ironmonger. Last name.
Yeah, Ironmonger. He wanted it's all about this intoxicating desire for the power that the hero has.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of recurring theme, at least in the initial films, the origin films for these starting heroes, the initial lineup for the Avengers, or what will be the Avengers. And it's like it's interesting how that this is the drive for one plot, and how Marvel knows how to make a subplot the setup for a future film.
Exactly.
And even though the audience are none the wiser, like nobody was in the audience in the theater, unless you were a super fan of the comics, was thinking, oh, Super Soldier, Captain America.
Yeah.
Oh, they tried making Captain America, and that's how the Hulk came. Mm-hmm. Okay. And it's like, and for fans, that's like, that's gold. But like for the everyday, moviegoer, it goes right over their head.
For someone who just knows the Hulk by name and by seeing them, not necessarily in comic books, but just seeing them around.
For all the praise, I feel like Incredible Hulk was the film that transitioned a lot of fans and a lot of people onto the film, and it wasn't just the Robert Downey Jr. scene at the end. I feel that how it was a precursor to Captain America, because soon after they announced Captain America and Thor. And it's like, I feel that it was a great setup, using a subplot. to drive the future of another film, even if that other film happens in the past.
Yeah. I agree.
But it's like just to quickly go back over, like, you know, the points that we had previously gone over. It's a key to understand who the character is. Knowing who the character is, knowing the flaws, and in this case, knowing that the character is Bruce Banner, and knowing that his flaws are a powerhouse. How best can you essentially manipulate that to best entertain the audience? And the best way to do that is internal struggle, which in this film they show. And clearly in the box office that shows. And it's like focusing on character is the way to go. They don't focus on the spectacle of, even though budget wise, that's where their money went, was the spectacle. Yeah. They focus. They
definitely just now, if we're watching it now, a decade later, you definitely can tell that the budget went to the spectacle.
Yeah, the budget definitely went to the spectacle, but in that case, you kind of have to go all out. Yeah. When the main character is CG, you have to go all out on every scene that the main character is in.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, like that will take away from any other scene that the character isn't in. And it's like, but they show that growth through internal struggle. And it's like we see throughout all the films, that the Hulk pops up in, that there's a recurring theme of self-control and also a recurring anxiety and fear of avoidance. Like with, the scene in, Infinity War with Ross on the scanner.
Yeah. That scene, for people who didn't really catch it, Rhodey is speaking to Ross and the Security Council, and Banner is literally in the background ducking and dodging because Ross's hologram is walking around. He doesn't want to be seen.
Yeah,
he still is afraid that Ross. I mean, it's evident that Ross is looking for him, but he still has that fear. Of being in Ross's eye, being sought after, and stuff like that. It's a really nice nod. I didn't catch it. I caught it probably my 12th time watching the movie, but. It's a really subtle thing.
Yeah, and it's super subtle, and it's a great transition into when we see him in Endgame.
Yeah.
Who has now completely accepted who he is. He is now a complete public figure, so the government doesn't want him.
Yeah.
He's
taking selfies and dabbing it up with kids.
Yeah. The Russo brothers kids.
The Russo brothers kids.
But yeah, and it's also interesting how, like, the Hulk, instead of using Captain America as the next film to try and produce, they were like, let's raise the bar, let's stretch the audience's belief on what's possible before we focus on the origin of what made that possible. And it's all about the order of how you, like, you know, produce things to your audience, and the order that you give your audience information is also crucial. And it's like, you don't have to have you don't have to smack your audience in the face with here's another character. Smack. Like you don't need that, you don't need to smack your audience in the face. Your audience will, if your audience cares about the character, your audience will see it. Your audience will look for it. Your audience will want to know more. And you always want your audience to want to know more.
Exactly.
So I guess that's the end of this video. I didn't think we would make it as long as the last one, but we ended up doing just that. So
I think this one is about 2 minutes shorter, though. I mean, if we cut it off right here.
I mean, nope. No, it's not.
Oh. That's not correct.
Well, anyways, till next time, guys. Next time, I guess we'll be talking about Thor.
So, yeah.
Peace.
Sign out.